So the Prime Minister is saying it's about getting the job done. To talk about this, we're now joined by Bryan May. He is the Parliamentary Secretary for the Minister of Defence, also the Liberal MP for the riding of Cambridge in Ontario. James Bezan is the Conservative Member of Parliament for Selkirk, Interlake, Eastman in Manitoba. He is also Vice Chair of the Standing Committee on National Defence. And Daniel Blaikie is the NDP MP for Elmwood, Transcona in Manitoba. Hello to the three of you.
Hello.
Hello. Mr. Bezan, I'm going to ask you to start us out here because it was your caucus colleague, Michael Chong, who over the weekend raised the issue of Canada's defence preparedness. What do you make of the Prime Minister's response?
Well, first and foremost, I just want to thank all the members of the Canadian Armed Forces and those of the U.S. military who all serve with NORAD for getting the job done. And I would just suggest that, the language that the Prime Minister used earlier this week was a misnomer. There's no way he can order the U.S. Air Force to shoot down anything, never mind a balloon. And so it is really the NORAD construct that allows us to be in a position where we can have this type of reliable continental security. And it just speaks to the fact that Justin Trudeau and these Liberals have not taken our national sovereignty seriously. They haven't taken our continental security seriously. They haven't invested in NORAD the way it should be. They've been dithering and delaying to finally buy the F-35s that we should have bought 10 years ago. And here we are in a situation that our CF-18s can't even access the outer limits that we need to be at to shoot down things like balloons, never mind defend ourselves from incursions from other military as an aerial threat.
Mr. May, I wonder what you have to say about it, because Conservatives may be speaking about it, but just listening to talk radio this morning, they're not the only Canadians who think what happened over the weekend is a bad sign, that U.S. jets had to essentially shoot down this object in Canadian skies. What do you say to Canadians who are of that view?
I obviously disagree with my honourable colleague, and he knows very well how NORAD works. We have an amazing group of men and women in the Canadian Armed Forces working within the joint NORAD structure, command structure. And yes, the Prime Minister did, in fact, order NORAD to shoot down this object over the Yukon. And I think that it's incredibly important to really highlight how seamless that process is between Canada and the United States. We have an amazing system within NORAD, and we need to continue to work seamlessly to deal with these issues.
Mr. Blaikie, what's your take? How concerned should Canadians be if it requires a U.S. jet to shoot something down over Canadian soil?
Well, I think this is an opportunity to remember that even in peacetime, there is an important job for men and women in the Canadian Armed Forces to do, and that they need appropriate equipment in order to be able to do that. I think that in the context of the serious concern that Canadians are experiencing, wondering kind of where these objects come from and what the intent behind them is, it just feels kind of petty to be arguing about who finally made the order or whatever it is that folks want to debate. I think what we should be looking to government for is a clear statement about the integrity of Canadian airspace and a reminder to the world of our expectations about our airspace and the work within NORAD in order to deliver on those expectations. And what we saw was that worked well in this instance, and we should be thinking about how we can ensure that if this is, first of all, how do we prevent it from happening again at all? And second of all, if it is going to happen again, how we have an appropriate response that protects Canadian and North American airspace without escalating conflict.
Mr. Bezan, what's your response to that? NORAD more than the nuts and bolts of who has the plane?
Well, we have to increase our funding. We have to counter these threats by having a stronger military. We need to make sure that our intelligence systems and our alliances with our allies are strengthened. We are being reliable as we play a part in NATO and especially here in NORAD as we look at our own continental security and the role that we play in defending the North. I think that the Liberals just haven't taken any of this seriously. They've been slow in investing in NORAD and our early warning systems. They have been slow off the mark by playing political games instead of buying the F-35 earlier than just making that announcement in the last month. And we know that they haven't taken foreign interference in Canada in any serious form or fashion. So it is a situation that we have to address very quickly. We have to increase our ability to monitor these threats. We have to be able to intercept them quicker, and Canada needs to play a bigger role so that we don't have a situation where the Prime Minister can request, he cannot order the U.S. to shoot down objects in Canadian airspace. And I just like to remind those watching that the NORAD, the way it works is the NORAD commander and the deputy commander report to the President of the United States and the Minister of National Defence, and the Commander-in-Chief of the Canadian Armed Forces is the Governor-General acting on behalf of the King of Canada.
Mr. May, what's your response to those charges?
Well, look, I will agree with the first part of what Mr. Bezan said in his statement there, that we need to continue to do more. And that's why last June we announced one of the largest investment in NORAD in a generation, nearly $40 billion over the next 20 years to modernize NORAD. We have already moved on bringing in companies like Nasakit Corporation to maintain the North Warning System. We've connected with the fighter jets that he was referring to. We announced that we finalized that contract to buy 88 of the F-35 fighter jets. We agree. We need to continue to do more. This suggestion, however, that we are not an equal player on NORAD is disrespectful to the members of the Canadian Armed Forces. It's disrespectful to the members of the Canadian Armed Forces that are tasked to keep us safe each and every day.
Mr. Bezan, I know you're trying to get in there. What did you want to say?
I was just saying that the Prime Minister is not part of the chain of command. I'm not at all insulting NORAD. I think it's one of the most important defense agreements in the world.
And it worked exactly as it was intended to work in the last couple of weeks.
The Prime Minister to make the request.
It worked exactly as it was intended to work.
Let's be clear on this point. Prime Minister had to call President Biden saying, can you please shoot down this aircraft, because it was so slow in investing in our CF-18 upgrades that we don't even have the Sidewinder missiles to do it.
I don't think this is the conversation Canadians are hoping that we're going to be having, and we're getting squabbling, frankly, from both sides. Both sides have been in government at various times and have failed to be able to procure equipment that the Canadian Armed Forces need. So this is a long-standing problem, and what we need is leadership to figure out how we get past the squabbling and actually do the job. I think that's what Canadians are more interested to see, and unfortunately it's not on display this afternoon.
Okay. Well, unfortunately, we're also out of time, but really appreciate the three of you stepping in today to talk to us about the matter. So to Mr. May, to James Bezan, as well as Mr. Blaikie, thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anytime.